What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Montana Method Podcast once again. As always, your faithful host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., coming to you with a virtual version of the Montana Method Podcast today. I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, known him for a lot of years. He's killing it in the business game. I've been blessed enough to learn from him, and I've used a lot of the things I've learned from him over the years. And he's a fellow author as well. Wrote a book called Tips for Success a while back that I actually read myself. It's a pretty good book. And we're going to get into what he's up to and the things that have made him who he is and what's working in his life. So, without further ado, welcome my mentor and friend, Chris Holder.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
What's up, Chris? How you doing?
Good, Nelson. Glad to be here, be a part of your show. You know, I see you out here making it happen. So just happy to add some value, man, to those that are willing to listen.
I appreciate that, Chris. And it's an honor to have you in my space. I always tell all my guests, my space is for people who are exuding greatness, and you are doing that well and loud and proud, my brother. Appreciate that.
But yeah, just here to share, man. So much is going on. So I know there's a lot that you're doing and a lot that you're offering to your fan base, to your audience. So yeah, man, take it away. Let's jump right into it, man.
Definitely. I mean, it's been about 8 or 9 years since we've seen each other, so I know a lot has transpired. One of the things is you're a father now, so congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
You know, being a family man is something I aspire to do one day when the right woman who can stand me finds me.
Yes, that's a big part of it.
Definitely a huge part of it for sure. And how's New York? How's up north?
New York is great. I mean, I got a pretty good view from where I am right now. So I always get to, in the morning, I get to look at New York a little different, you know, being able to, you know, been here pretty much most of my life. It's definitely gotten a lot harder. And what I mean by that is like people have gotten a lot harder. I know it's probably crazy to think like New Yorkers are gotten harder. Yep, it's definitely, kindness has left my city. It hasn't changed me because I really don't have any reason to be upset. So I'm just happy to be able to continue to put smiles on New Yorkers' faces. That's what I spend a lot of time. I get up with the purpose of putting a smile on a New Yorker's face. And it turns out that smile that you put on someone's face ends up being that person who looks out for you later on. For some reason, you know, you're nice to somebody and it comes back because they're so used to everybody not. So other than that, I think that's a big thing. Cost of living in New York has went out just crazy. And it was already expensive to live here. Now it's just you really have to have or bundle up with some friends if you're trying to live here. And I know business is business. The one thing about New York, it doesn't stop. So as bad as it is, and there's all that other stuff, definitely one of the hardest places for me to leave.
I can relate to you 100%. A lot of people, Miami has gotten fairly expensive as well because of the amount of people that moved here over the past few years and whatnot. And a lot of people ask me why I'm still here, and I could never leave this place, man. It's home, you know. It's just
no, for sure.
It's me, you know. It's everything about me. I can never leave this place. So I'm there with you. So what do you got going on nowadays? I know you're probably busy as ever. So what are some main projects you got going on?
So let me see. I guess I'll try to run everything down. So we have owner of a direct sales company. That's one. So that happened since we last connected. So that company has done now millions of dollars in revenue in the health and fitness space. Then jumped into the private equity space. So got into that. So that's been doing well. Overseas investing, stuff like that. That's been good. VP of sales of a direct sales company right now, actually. Let's see, the program that I started, the $100 million run group, which was a community that I created focused on helping 1,000 people make or save 6 or 7 figures, so that as a group, we would amass $100 million in what I like to call growth revenue, which will then allow that group to come back to the community that they've built a relationship with to say, hey, I'm starting a business, and actually get someone to invest with them. I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to start a new business by yourself, no support, no finances, no direction.
Oh, yeah.
And we wanted to provide that for the community. What I am happy to say is that as of today, since we've started, we've helped over 1,000 people save or make 6 or 7 figures. So we've actually hit that mark, and we're just keeping the ball rolling. The beautiful part about it is a lot of people started out not knowing how they were going to get there, but they just followed our system. Very simple, teaching people just basic financial stuff. And, you'd be surprised when you give people the right information, what happens. So that's gone well. We have investment groups, relationship groups. So basically what we look to do is I started companies based on the needs of the people I was serving. So instead of me starting a company and then looking for the market, I let the market dictate which direction I was going to go to help people. And when I saw that the divorce rates were as high as they were, when I saw that business failures were as high as they were, I saw these things, I said, okay, a lot of these people are in the community that I'm building, and they're just going on Google to try to find help. Why can't I set something up to provide it for them? So that is exactly what we've done. And, now, being featured on TV and featured in magazines, all this stuff that's happened has just come from me serving people. I've just spent time committing to people. I take on the mindset that, I do things because I want to do it, not because I need to or have to do it. And when you do something without any expectation in that way, it's very hard for things not to work out the way you want them, because you are the one that's in control of it. No one can stab you in the back if you literally did it just because you were trying to help them. They actually ended up stabbing themselves without even realizing. So
10%.
That's a quick version. 2 kids, married, obviously. So I have a daughter who is 6. She started her first business, so she's really excited about her jewelry and her clothing design. So I'm really happy to have a 6-year-old business owner. She's already locked in her first partnership with a clothing brand in Harlem. My son is 2, and he's just chasing her around all the time. So I guess that's going to be security for now, because he is definitely a tough one. But that's been it. My wife and I, we've been, rocking for the last couple of years. It's been amazing, to be, to be with someone that you're building something together. It's a family plan. I try to create the lifestyle that I want first, and then put work around it, instead of finding something and then trying to fit my life, my family life into it. And that's been obviously there's always that balance, right? Of which day, whatever. But overall, things have gone well in that way. And then we have an exotic car business, because I bought a bunch of cars. So I ended up turning that into something. But I really don't I just love my cars. So I can't let anybody drive them. So I'm like, I don't even know why I started the business, because nobody's touching my cars. It's like you get there, like, that was a good idea, but now that I have it, I don't want anybody to touch the car. So that business doesn't really do much activity outside of me driving my cars and maybe a couple photo shoots here or there, but that's about it. Man. Things have been good that way.
That's fantastic. That's really good to hear. It's crazy how in a blink of an eye so much time passes by, and I'm glad to hear that you have seized the day, as they say. A lot of people throughout these past few years, I think humanity as a whole has realized that we do not have time. We don't.
Yeah.
And your time is a finite resource. It's the most precious thing you have, beyond money, beyond anything. And how you use your time is in direct proportion to the results you get in your life.
Yeah.
So you line up with that old saying, if you need something done, give it to a busy person.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Man, it's definitely it. So I remember, man, I'll never forget I was in a Friday night locker room training with you, and you said something that has stuck with me to this day, and it's burned into my brain. You said, you don't know who you are until money's not an issue in your life.
Yep. Yeah.
And I write the second chapter on my book, I write about something called the Pathfinder's Pyramid, where basically it's the different phases you go through in life. And a big part of phase one, which is survival, is just that you don't know who you are because you're facing all this financial turmoil in your life, and you're just trying to figure out how to pay the bills. And because money is such a big issue, you don't have the freedom to express yourself as a human being.
Yeah.
You know, that's stuck with me. And let me tell you, I've been blessed because of that idea. I always remembered that in the back of my brain whenever I was going through something or there was a transitional phase in my life. I remembered this isn't my authentic self. My authenticity comes out when you don't have this scarcity conversation. When it's more of you're living more from a state of mind of abundance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've been meaning to thank you for years for that.
Listen, man, that is one of the, it goes both ways, right? You don't know who you are, until like literally money is not something you're like, it's just gone, right? So whether you're on the back end where you have nothing, and you really get to see your character, you really get to see who you are, because what are you willing to do for money, right? Are you willing to rob somebody? Is that the person that's deep down inside, right? Is that the guy? Or is it the person that navigates the right way and digs himself out and figures out healthy, constructive ways to get out? And then the other side is the person who then makes all of it. Do you become a brand new person? Most people who know me from however long, like if they met me today outside of like stuff and accolades or whatever, they would just sit down with me and be the same guy. Money didn't change much of anything except for more sleep.
Right. More rest.
More peaceful, more resting sleep. There's a difference between sleep and resting sleep. Okay. I'm talking that sleep where you wake up and it's like, wait, I really don't need to go back to sleep. It's 4:00. I'm awake. I'm wide awake. I am fully rested because I got nothing else to go for there. So it makes a big difference, man.
Definitely. I remember, man, that's day and night from a story you told me a long time ago. Do you remember when you were 22 and you had that mild heart attack?
Of course.
Oh man, tell the story. Tell the story.
So let me make sure. So actually, it happened twice, but this one we're talking about when I went to the hospital, I didn't even realize it. So basically, I'll give the short version for time, but basically, I was working on Wall Street, doing all the stuff, running around, whatever. And, you're going, and you're not realizing it. And I remember it was the day I had to go to the doctor, and I'm like rushing, I'm on the train. I'm like, man, I feel something, but whatever, it's whatever. And I get to the hospital, and my doctor, really not hospital. I get to my doctor. We're going through it, and I'm thankful that day I was scheduled to go in. I was going in for my regular checkup, because Lord knows what would have happened had it just been the next day, or I was so busy that I just stayed at work. And I get in there, and they do their regular check. They give you the blood pressure thing. I mean, just whatever.
Right.
And I remember sitting there, and then like it went from super slow and everyone kind of doing routine stuff to literally rushing. I'm thinking they knocking stuff over. They're rushing. They're just going, oh my gosh, are you okay, Mr. Holder? Are you? And I'm like,
I'm fine.
I mean, yeah, I feel like my breath's a little shorter than normal. And yeah, my head feels a little light, but that happens every day, right? In my brain, there's like, Mr. Holder, you are having a heart attack. I was like, nah, no way. Not at this age. What could a heart attack? I'm like, nah, you guys are joking. And they showed me the numbers. I'm like, I don't even know what these numbers mean. Like I'm young. I'm not supposed to have this concern. And man, the doctor rushed in. He says, hey, Mr. Holder, we're going to keep you here a couple extra hours to observe you. And then they said, well, what do you do? And they said, do you have a high stress type of job? I'm like, yeah, I do work on Wall Street. I make phone calls. They're like, yeah, your profession's going to kill you, basically.
Wow.
But I always remember that because I always think like, man, had it not been for the fact that I was scheduled to go in, me being short of breath and lightheaded and things of that nature, I would have just assumed it came with me not eating well for the day, and I would have had a heart attack. And what's pretty sad, Nelson, like within the last 10 days, I lost 2 good friends 139, the other one 43. I believe he just turned. Both of them from heart attacks.
Man,
right?
such a shame.
Nobody, like, just literally they were feeling funny. They just kind of brushed it off. Next day they're gone. And I think back to my situation, like, wow, like that could have been me had I just not gone the next day. So I always think back to that, and it always reminds me that, you know, how fragile we are as human beings, and how every day that we get up and we get a chance to strike the day again and make something happen like we should, because at the end of the day, someone did not get up today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, someone else got the phone call in the middle of the day that this person is no longer here, and now people have to figure life out. So yeah, I think, man, that experience has slowed me down and kept me in a certain pace that frustrates a lot of people around me. Like when people are running and they're going crazy, I slow all the way down. Like I get slower. So like if I'm if I'm late for something, I always try to remind myself that you can't be earlier if you're late. Like there's no way, if I'm late, rushing isn't going to change the fact that I am late.
Yeah, you're late. Yep.
So if I'm late, 10 minutes late, 5 minutes late, a whole hour late, the word late is associated. Now, what happens after determines how much of a risk I'm putting my life in. Now I'm speeding on the highway to get there, or I jump in a random car to do this, or you start to make life-threatening decisions to be late. So I always say, hey, can't change it. All I can do is apologize, because I'm going to have to apologize anyway. So let's just get there safe, make sure they were in position, and whatever is supposed to happen in that time, then that's what's going to happen in that time. And it's very frustrating for everyone when they're running like that, because they don't see the value in continuing to remember that everything we do is a risk from the minute we wake up to the minute we walk out our houses. So, you know, let's be smart. But yeah.
I can relate. Me personally, I used to be terrible with time, and much like, you know what, I kept in my brain from the things I learned from you. Another one of my mentors told me, Nelson, when you're late, you're directly telling the other person they can wait because you're more important.
Yep.
So I got better. I got much better with time and being on time and things like that. So, I mean, life happens. Obviously, I mean, today, you know, we experienced it. However, I try to make sure that when someone tells me, you know, be there at 11, I'm there at, 5 minutes before or whatnot. Just, I'm in a bit of a knuckle dragger. People call me old school, and I'm not even that old. But it's just something I think just as a courtesy. And I know you know this philosophy. The way that you do one thing is how you do everything.
I do everything. Yep.
Definitely. So I know, and I've experienced that if you can make a habit of doing the small things right, like showing up early, for example, you'll exceed and succeed at the big things when time comes.
Correct.
It's all the small efforts put together over time that make up, the big things.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the part a lot of people don't think about. People don't even think about the fact that, I grew up where if you were on time, you were late.
Wow.
Right? So I grew up that on time is late, because if you're on time, you're rushing.
Yes.
Right. Think about it. Right. If the event starts at 11, you are not walking in the building of the event at 11 o'clock.
Correct.
Now you're late.
Correct.
What if you got to use the bathroom? What if you got to wash your hands? What if this? So on time is late. And that has always allowed me. Like, I have an event today, starts at 7 o'clock. And then there was like, hey, Chris, what time are you going to be there? I was like, I'm going to be there at 4:45. They're like, 4:45? The hell is like, everything is set. I was like, no, it's not set. I said, it's an event. Things always happen. I said, I'm going to go there. I'm going to run through everything when I get there. And then I'm going to run through it again at about 45 minutes after. And then 30 minutes before, I'm going to check one more time. And then I'm going to be ready for something to happen 2 minutes before we start.
Right.
Because it's just what it is. I always took on that mentality, because I'm like, if I can work the day of something important, if I can work in this area, then I'm just going to get to that area early and just make that part of the day.
Right.
Like, not even think about it. Like, I'm the guy that goes to the airport. My wife hates it. I follow the rules. You're supposed to be there 2 hours before. 2 hours before, I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm telling you, like, I'm that guy. Like, hey, no problem. I'm good. I've never missed a flight. And the only time, which is funny, I've ever had to rush for a flight is when I had to start incorporating my wife and kids to my time schedule for trips. Because she was the type of person that just walked in. Like, oh, yeah, I'll get there about an hour, 45 minutes before, because I already checked in on the phone. I'm like, yes, but what if there's a line? What if there's this? And that has happened multiple times. We're like, wait a minute. Where did all these people come from? You know, and it's like travel. That's where they came from. So anyway,
definitely. No, I'm there with you. I've never missed a flight in my entire life, for sure. And that's a thing in Miami. Let me tell you, every time I'm at the airport and I'm in line, there's always a group who's just, oh my God, please let me through. Oh, God. It never fails.
That's
never
it.
fails. I remember there was I was in an Uber, and so the other person jumped in the Uber and they were trying to get to the airport, and he told the Uber driver, "I need my flights. Oh man, it's 10:45. My flight's at 11. Get me to the airport." The Uber driver turned around and looked at him and told him, "Listen, man, I can get you to the airport in 5 minutes, but you're not gonna get from the airport to the plane in 10."
Yep.
It was so funny.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's like, really? Just get on your phone and you got to reschedule.
Yeah.
That's it. Sure. When it comes to flights, you look at it, they give you the option these days. Like, people just forget, hey, you can just take the L, call up the airline, see what's available.
Yep.
Because you're going to be put on standby anyway.
Definitely.
So you might as well stay home.
I've become an observer, quite the observer over the past few years. And what I observe is whenever I choose to take an action, or I see someone take a certain type of action around me, so in that example, right? Oh man, I need to get to the airport in 15 minutes. You clearly understand that you're not going to get to the plane. However, it's like, where else does that show up in your life?
Yep.
Yep. And just that simple question, when I ask myself that question, for example, I'll cut somebody off in traffic. I don't want to make a line, and I'll cut the whole line, and I'll get to, for example, I'll sit there and be like, man, was that fair? I shouldn't have done that. Where else does that show up in my life? I ask myself that question all the time. And the answers I get is pretty crazy. It's a part of the personal development, journey, that I started so long ago. And that's a big thing about direct sales, that I owe a lot of what I've been through to that industry, because it just put me on the course of reading books and getting better and learning and expanding and finding mentors. So that obviously, I'm sure it's a huge culture you put into your company, and I've said it multiple times on the podcast that industry has done so much for me. I owe a lot to it. I wouldn't have written my book. I really wouldn't have.
Right.
It would have been, my life would have been really different. The personal development journey has been one of a lot of self-discovery, and I'm excited about how much I have to go. So
yeah, for sure, man. That's what it's about.
Definitely, for sure. What are you reading nowadays?
So I'm reading a lot of technical books. So I guess, let me see, what's the best way? So I've been reading a lot of war stories. I've been watching, been looking at a lot of history stuff. Been really focused on things like the pyramids. So I've really been focusing on things that are like uncommon. I feel like a lot of the concepts that we've been taught are all unfinished ideas. So a lot of things that build the principles, that a lot of people are on, there's like a full story. So there's a lot of sentences that they're paragraphs and pages for. So I've really just been spending time to get those answers. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but it helps me in my business now to think outside the box even more. So I look at something like, why today can't we still explain how the pyramids were built? Right? It's like, why after all these years, all the technology, they are still finding stuff that, like, wait a minute, we thought it was this or this, or why have they not been able to discover like the full tune, like walk through it, right, without destroying it, right? Because they're
Right.
afraid of the booby traps, and so there's some parts of certain pyramids, those tombs that have not been opened, not been fully discovered
Right.
because of the fact that we haven't been able. So I think about those scenarios and I go, okay, great. We have all this technology, but it's probably something so simple, right? It's when you look at a lot of the more complicated things, sometimes it does boil down to the most simplest concept to do something. So instead of them just opening a door, they feel they need to create a robot that does this and can do this, and do that, and can do this. Literally, some random guy from the area is going to walk in and just, oh, here it is, door's open. They wasted 9 years for that.
Right.
So what I've been focusing on is anything that I could find that has been more that has been simplified. I'm looking to simplify the complicated, because once I figured out the code for money, and for me, I figured out the code. Whatever, people can say whatever they want, but I've been retired for a long time now. So for me, once I figured out that it was simple. The simple concept is, you want to know like one of the secrets to money that like we've never been taught, and I don't hear it anywhere. Literally just learning not to live at 100% of your income. Literally, that's it. Like after all this stuff, right? I sat there and I said, okay, the problem people have is they can't save. The problem people have is they can't this. And as I read books on money, books on investing, books on this, books on this, it just comes back to people trying to find more money because the money they have doesn't work. Then also trying to find motivation to move forward when they know things are bad. So what do you do? So I gave the example. I said, how I got out of my situation is I started at 5%. That means that every time a dollar came in, 95% is what I saw as the income, but 5%, the 5 cents, I would basically put it aside. You get it?
Right.
And then that eventually turned to 10 cents, so on and so forth, right? So I tell people to take out whatever the percentage is that works for you. Because most people are living at 100%. That's why they feel tight, they say. That's that term. I feel like I don't have money. I feel like things are... There's no feeling. It's either you have it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? So if you feel like you're tight, you're probably tight. That's probably what it is. So anyway, so if we take someone who sees their paycheck, let's say they're seeing $300 a week. Well, what happens there is they should really be seeing, if we did the 10% rule, they should really be seeing $270 a week. And that $30 they're going to put aside. And every week they would take that $30 out. Now, they would treat the $270 as if that was the 100%. That's their income. Now, if they're short, if they're this, if there's that, that's where, hey, I need extra income comes in. Hey, this is where I need to pick up extra hours at work because I got to make up the difference of this $60 or $90 or $120 a month. But then they take that $120 for the month, and then they add it immediately to the areas they've been falling behind: debt, savings, investing, or retirement, right? Because if not, they won't be able to catch up as fast. So I'm just saying like a simple concept of that. So the goal eventually is getting to 50%. That's really where you want to be. And then obviously then it becomes, even less than that. The goal is to continue to bring it down where the percentage that's coming in truly is over that. But I think it starts by stop looking at your income and stop looking at $100 as $100. See it as whatever that number is. So a simple concept like that. So I've been really just going back through different books, like what choice do I have? I do go back and do a refresher on the cash flow quadrant. I'll go back and take a look at Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game.
Fantastic.
Then I've been, So the Excel phenomenon is another one that I think a lot of people, there's so many different. So then I take those, and then I combine that with while watching just a lot of videos and documentaries on these concepts, and then seeing what they're looking at, what they're studying, and then going to see if I can find it online, any transcripts online, anything broken down, and then finding a way to take those concepts and come back. And then no matter what, man, I can tell you the one thing that I've noticed through talking through different cultures, different countries, Death is death no matter where you go.
Most definitely.
So that idea that as everyone's trying to figure it out, I think the story was of Alexander. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Alexander the Great. And I don't know if you heard the story of when he died, what his 3 requests were and why. So if you haven't, it's a really good statement. Anyway, so the first thing is he said he wanted all of the top doctors, the top, the top of the top, to carry his casket, so that the people can see that when you're faced with death, there is nothing, no science can stop. So none of the smartest people in the world can't stop when it's your time. That's it. Then he said he wanted all of his golds and jewelry and anything he had that was wealth, that showed wealth. He wanted it to be kind of thrown behind him. So as you're walking, you're seeing, to remind everyone that every single thing that they own, every single thing that they created, when it's gone, does not come with you. So all your wealth will be gone just as much. And he wanted his hand to stay outside, so it looks like so blowing in the wind. He wanted people to see his hand to remind everyone that the same way you came into the world is the same way you're going to go out of the world, empty-handed, right? And it's just to remind people to stay focused on a daily basis on impact and experience. Impact and experience, because at the end of the day, that's what you're taking with you in your last thoughts. Everything else is gone. And that always stuck with me. But once again, I found that story looking through things with the pyramids and listening to some of these great, the individuals in the tombs and things like that. So there's a lot that you can pull from that, and you can take those stories and easily implement them into, the space we are, to inspire and to motivate.
It's funny that you bring up Alexander. I'm a huge fan of history. I love history. I can't get enough of it. I love ancient history specifically was my favorite, like the Greco-Roman era, that kind of stuff. And then I expanded into China, Japan, France. I'm a big fan of history, and I love learning about guys like Alexander, guys like Napoleon, guys like Genghis Khan, and learning Julius Caesar, and learning why they did the things they did, because it's human motivation is so interesting, right? What motivates one individual can be a total turnoff for the next individual, or it could just be totally irrelevant, right? So that's a nice view.
It is. But now the sun, as it moves around.
So yeah, I'm a huge fan of history, and I don't know if you've ever read Robert Greene's books, but he's a bit of a history buff, and I love his books. I recently read the 33 Strategies of War. You would love that book if you haven't read it. It's amazing. And learning where we come from, why certain individuals did what they did, and finding out how they were able to accomplish, whatever they did in life. To me, it's always been motivational. I'm always trying to inspire myself. So I think history is really interesting, because you have so many different examples of people who have done these astonishing things that you think you could never do. And it's basically broken down to a formula, as to how they did what they did.
For sure. I think when I think back to school, I was horrible in pretty much every single class except for gym. And I enjoyed movies. So I had a professor that would explain history in movies, so he used movies. So what he would do is find all the historical facts and whatever his curriculum was for the year, and he would find the movie that was created to go alongside it. And what he would do is he would have us all study the particular, story, and then we would then watch the movie. And people would find the gaps, and then he would give us our test. That was the first time that I actually got a higher grade in a class than gym, which is very hard to do, because gym, they just give you if you're active, That's it. So
Right.
history has always been big because I always like to use history because as human, it's in our nature to repeat our own mistakes. So a lot of times within histories, what I look for in history is inaccuracies, things that just don't make sense. Like, nah, you're not going to tell me that you got to give me some facts for that one, because that story doesn't add up to anything that we have been able to show here on this entire planet. But yeah, so it's always great to do that. And I think the biggest thing now is I tell people all the time, when you're no longer here, who's going to talk about you? Like honestly, I said, well, who? I said, give me a list of the 3 to 4 people that are going to carry on what you have done here on Earth. And most people, when they start to think about it, it's very hard for them to say 100% that one person is going to take everything that you've done and say, I'm continuing this man or woman's message, because somebody has to. I gotta take the baton and pass it on. And I took that from my parents. And now I'm hoping my daughter and my son take it from me, as they are now a part of what I'm doing. So always try to tell people, like, what are we doing this all for? At the end of the day, I'm hoping it's for impact. I'm hoping it's for something bigger than stuff. I tell people all the time, like, I never really talk about any of the stuff that I have, because none of the stuff matters to the people I'm talking to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not your life. That's my life. So let's talk about how we can get whatever it is that you want to experience while here on this planet, while here with the time we've been given. I tell people all the time, don't tell me you can really explain what's happening outside in our solar system. Don't tell me you can really explain how we're able to truly breathe, how that thing can fly and that thing can't fly, and why that plane doesn't stop moving in the sky, and aliens this. And there's so much unknown. So I tell people, if there's so much unknown, we got the proof, right? Why are you still unknown about your place in it?
Man.
It's like, maybe I forget all that. Like, with all that going on, you're going to be just as unknown. So it's like, how about we change that? How about we focus on getting you to your purpose and then building this thing, this cluster of what you have been built to create? If not, you're just passing through.
110%, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's another part in chapter 2 of my book that I talk about in the Pathfinder's Pyramid. You go through these 4 stages, and you're basically going through, survival, which, like I said, that's trying to hustle and figure things out and put food on the table. Then you get to distracted, right, where you think you found it, you think you made it, and it's more just like there's no substance to anything that's going on, And then you get into searching, where is, all right, I realize there's more to my life. What is there? What is this about? Why am I here? What do I want to figure out? And then if you're lucky, you get to purpose, which is the final stage. And a purpose-driven human being is unlike any other thing I've ever seen in my life. When a person is locked on a purpose, locked onto a mission, is aware and conscious of why they're here and why they want to do the things they want to do, that human being is just on fire, man. They're living in momentum. You know what I mean? They're living, and they're not living in the same reality as someone who's not living in purpose. They're both living on this planet. They're living 2 different realities, though. Totally different realities.
One's living and one's existing. There's a difference.
There we go.
Big difference.
For sure. What's the old saying? Some people die long before they're buried. It's just they wait until they're actually buried into the ground to say they're dead,
Yeah, I think the upgrade to that is you have some people that are now the Walking Dead.
Yeah, zombies.
That's it. That's what they are, right? If you've died before you actually, your body physically is in the ground, then you are the Walking Dead.
You are the Walking Dead.
Taking up space.
They I think that's why the Walking Dead TV show was such a hit.
I was amazed at how many seasons that thing went.
Yeah, it went like 10 or 11 or 12 seasons.
No, it's like 15.
Oh, man.
It kept going. I thought after, I think Rick passed away, I was like, I guess that's it. I was like 4 seasons after that. I'm like, wait. Who? How? Who's carrying this thing?
Oh man, it's too much for me. You
Yeah.
must relate to this. Whenever someone's like, "Oh man, you see the new season of this that came out?" and no, I haven't. I don't see it.
It was
I
like
haven't
the
seen it.
whole season, like the whole season of something. Not like the trailer or a quick clip. You mean like all 13 episodes? Man, that's
That's
only
commitment
on
right there.
yeah, only on vacation. I would say only on vacation can I actually say when I unplug and I allow myself to just try to follow, the schedule that my wife is on of just, I don't know, just sitting there and watching TV. Can I say I'm going to catch up on something? And I don't even know what to catch up on. I'm still looking like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still looking at, like, really, like, I'm going back to, like, Martin. I'm like, I don't think I've seen every episode of this. I'm going to go back to this. Everyone's talking about all this new stuff. I'm like, man, have you seen Martin? Like, you've not seen that?
That's
yeah,
funny,
I don't.
man.
We have one TV in our house, bro, in our living room. That's it. We watch movies as a family. The kids play. My house is still kind of an old school vibe in reference to talking and checking in. And I feel that's been taken away from society today. So people don't know how to communicate. Their communication skills are gone. People are uncomfortable around people. People are uncomfortable if you try to hug them. Like, I'm a hugger, so I meat somebody. I'm like, man, bring it in. They're like, oh, what do you mean bring it in? Who does that? Is something wrong with you? So I live, man. I know one day I'm going to get the call. That's every day I get up and I was like, I hope it's not today. I literally get up saying, I open my eyes. I'm like, I made it today. I'm telling you, man, I'm so grateful to wake up regardless of my situation. I've always been grateful to wake up. But now that I have children, my waking up is like, I just got to be here. I was like, I want to be here long enough to know they're good. Like right now they're babies. I'm like, they need me. They're going to need me forever, but they definitely need me now. So I just try to make sure that my decision-making for my wife and my kids involves my wife and my kids.
Right.
For a long time, we make decisions based on our selfish goals and kind of just throw people into it. Now, I talk to my wife, my daughter, like, hey, next year, these are the list of events daddy's got to go to. I'm speaking here. I'm doing this. So I'm already booked up. What you want to do next year? And my daughter says, well, daddy, I need to go to Legoland and Disney World. Throw that in there. I'm like, all right, so Legoland and Disney World. Like, my wife, where you want to go? She's like, all right, I don't know. Maybe we could do a trip to Europe or Spain. I'm like, boom. And that's all y'all want, right? That's it. That's our plan for the family. So if we're blessed enough to make it to the end of next year, we're going to talk about all these trips and the things we did and the pictures and the videos and go back. It's like, yep. So I don't think we have those conversations if we're watching television as much as everyone is telling me I should be watching, because there's a lot of shows out there, man. You could get lost.
Oh yeah, for days and months and years.
Yeah, I don't even have time to watch basketball. Like, what I'll do is I'll go back to YouTube to watch the 8-minute highlight for the entire game. So don't tell me the game. I don't want to know what happened. 8-minute highlight. Okay, got it. That's all I need. I can't put 2 hours in no more.
Cut out all the boring parts and just catch the slam dunks.
Give me right to it. Give me right to the highlights. Give me right to it.
I'm with you. You know what's I watched. I grew up watching a lot of movies, and the classic scene of the family eating dinner together at the dinner table. I'm with you. I think that's something that's missing from today's society.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard when people come with our family and we're like, oh yeah, we're about to have dinner. It's around 5:30, 6. Like, what you mean? I said, we got a dinner table to go eat, because most people's dinner tables are just to look nice now. Mm-hmm. Like, if you see most places, they're designed excluding a dinner table.
Oh yeah.
The kitchen and living room is together, but there's no like, this is the dinner table. Right. Like, you can eat anywhere. So I think that's so important, because that's where, you'd have the meeting of the minds for the day. But I always remember my father would say this: the reason we all come together at the dinner table, because this could be our last supper.
Oh yeah.
When we were young, my father used to say our dinner table once a day is our last supper, because tomorrow morning is not guaranteed. That's how my father explained like church and God and this and this. He didn't try to force it by saying you just gotta pray and you just gotta this. It was very big on just respecting the fact that we can't explain how we're still here. Right? He says, yeah, we can tell you that, but you can't really explain how someone's breath just gets taken away.
Right.
You can't really explain how. So our bodies are fragile. So I always used to remember that. I was young. I might be 5 or 6, and it never left my brain. Like whenever I'm eating or have a moment, I stop. Like, hey man, let's talk. This could be the Last Supper. So what's on your mind? What's what are some things you'd want to say? And you'd be surprised if people do more talking. Some of the magic that could happen. So
for sure. Chris, this has been great. It was really, really awesome to be able to reconnect with you. I appreciate your time.
Yes,
thank you for the patience with the technology.
Oh, hey man, it's technology, man. That's how it works.
So I always wrap up all my podcasts with the same 3 questions I ask all my guests. So 1, what inspires you?
Right now, my family. That's priority number 1. And kind of weird to say it, but like not understanding life. Like not understanding life is, it inspires me to try to figure it out and try to figure it out in a way that it impacts my family. So when I get up, one day I'll show you this view. We'll get up and I'll try to explain like the sun is over here and this window, but I'm literally looking at the moon in the other window, and I'm just like, explain that. Oh yeah, it's because the earth is here and this thing is going around us. Is that really, bro? Nah, something else going on, man. I don't know. I can't. So what I'm saying is those things inspire me to say, all this is happening around us and we want to watch TV right now. You know what I'm saying? Like just look at that. Look at this.
Yeah, man.
Like, so I'm inspired by, I guess, what would you say? That'd be nature. That would be my surroundings. I don't know, that the simple things, right? The change in seasons, the unexplained, because there's just stories there. So so my family is a big part of it. Because I'm not chasing anything, I'm not running after anything right now, except for seeing more people get to where I am.
That's a blessing, man. So, second question, what's your dream?
My dream, I'm living it. I'm currently living my dream, literally on paper. If I showed it to you from 15 years ago, 20 years ago, however many years ago, it's the same one. It was to be young enough to be able to live where I wanted to, drive what I wanted to, inspire how I wanted to, without worrying about a single penny. Being able to give, to people and then tell them, you don't got to pay that back, bro. Like I wouldn't have gave it to you, to be able to just, okay. So my dream, if I were to then say, well, what's getting you going, is to look at my kids grow into respectable, impactful men, man and woman, and my kids, and being there as they start to learn the business, to be there when my daughter's having her first seminar, right? I would love to be there when she buys her first property and takes that route, or my son, I don't know what he ends up doing. So I look to my kids, and then to my wife, because she's the traveler. She's the one that's always like, we got to go here, we got to go here. So kind of seeing where she takes us, because she'll tell you, I'm good. Like, trust me, I'm good. I don't know, I could buy another car or another house or another, stuff, but that's never been, cars have always been my thing, but I've never stopped. I've never needed to be in this position to buy cars. I've been buying cars, I bought the cars at the level I was at, so I'm currently in a place, my friend, where I can say without thinking, yeah, I'm living my dream right now. So I'm happy to have been able to say that I've experienced what that means for me. So someone say, well, Chris, it's a choice now. Everything's a choice. Like nothing I want is not available for me to go buy, right? So that changes my perspective, right? So I don't look at anything as having the same value. Now I'm like, but do I want to spend $500,000 on that? Do I want to spend 3 million on that and then not drive it? So I make sure that my decisions aren't driven by impressing people, but more so impressing upon people what is possible. So that's probably the reason I haven't bought a Bugatti or something like that, because I don't like, who's that for? It ain't for me. That ain't a car I'm trying to drive in Manhattan. I'm not trying to drive it in these streets. Now, if I'm in Florida, it's a little different, right? Y'all got faster speed limit. It's a difference. I could enjoy the car on a regular road because the speed limit requires that. Yeah, 50-mile speed limits here. What am I doing with that? So anyway, sorry, I just went off there, but yes.
No point in having a Bugatti when you got that kind of speed limit. It's pointless.
Nah, you got too many stoplights. And then now there's a 25-minute speed limit driving on side roads. So if you drive more than 25 limits, you got a ticket.
Wow.
So you already know. It's just bad. That's why I got a scooter. I got a little one of them electric scooters that you stand on. It goes 22 miles an hour, brother. Listen now, that's a different type of speed out in the open. I just want to put that out there. You might want to try that out in that Miami situation there. So
living life on the dangerous side, 22 miles an hour.
Man, not to wear a helmet sometimes. It gets kind of scary. It does get kind of scary.
My bad. Question number 3, Chris. What's next for you?
What's next? I think, we've carried the $100 million run. I think what's next is me really getting the ability to push more 6-figure and millionaires out to the world to get to know them. Like me just being more of the mentor that just connects and gets them on their path, because they've made the money now, right? And they understand that if they just stick to my game plan for the next 2 to 5 years comfortably. I'm talking about if they do nothing else, they'll have $1 million put aside. And then what, So I would say that to me is next, because I'm currently working in my purpose. So I looked ahead at my life and I said, when I'm 70 years of age or 80 years, what would still keep me passionate and working and active? And it was helping people to get to 6 and 7 figures. That's how I actually came up. I said, I could see myself at 70 still doing seminars, talking to the next generation and that generation about how to get to where my family has gotten to. So I could see myself still doing that. So I said, well, if I do it now, then I'm already going to be working in my purpose for a very long time. So I was like, I don't want to wait to be in my purpose. What does 70-year-old Chris Holder look like? 80-year-old Chris Holder. So I'm like, let me live like that guy now. So that's why I live how I live. I'm living as if I was 75, 80 years old right now. So do I know what other doors are going to open? Not concerned. I got one singular focus, is how many people connected to me can I say I was a part of their 6-figure run, their 7-figure run. I was a part of them paying off that home. I was a part of them buying that dream car. I was a part of them taking that first exotic trip that they didn't believe they could get. I was a part of them recovering from, being their support for those people that I know that are going through cancer. Some of the people I know that are going through HIV. I just being present for people who may feel like no one's there for them. So I was that person years ago. Most people would see me today and they never look at the fact that I was homeless. Most people never realize that a lot of this success came from a whole lot of pain. So it never left me, and I never not go back. Every year, every couple months, I'm always back in those neighborhoods where I used to sleep. Those people are still there. So I'm giving socks out. I'm giving coats out. I'm bringing meals. But those are the things that people put on Instagram, right? Those are the things that people put on video and document. And I try to tell them, I said, unless you've been in that situation, you understand how much you don't want to be on video. You don't understand what that is like for someone who's going through that. And this is not the time that they want a light shined on them for your benefit. So I would say just being that guy, man. I'm looking forward to the next set of, there's about 10 people I'm working with currently right now that when I started with them, their situations were really bad. and all of them are now at about between $30,000 and $40,000 invested, you know? And by the end of next year, these 10 people will all be able to have over some six-figure amount put aside. And they'll officially, not 2023, but if they stick to it, don't change the plan. January of 2024, they'll all be able to start living off the returns from those investments of at least 5 figures a month. And I think back to the fact that they didn't believe that anything like that could even be possible for them because of where they came from and the people that were around them. And I said, hey, just stop talking to them and talk to me. So that is what's next for me. Just more of that, I would say.
That's fantastic. This has been great, Chris. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. We got to do this again. You got to come. Sir. You got to come down to Florida. Come out.
Listen, I'm always down in Florida. You see me. I'm always down there. So I'll be down there, and we'll get together in person for sure.
Yeah, man.
They always got me on the flight down there.
I'll see you soon, hopefully. Sooner than later.
Yes, sir.
How can people connect with you?
Well, yeah, you can just find me if you go to ceochrisholder.com. That's my website. But if you Google CEO Chris Holder, you'll find my YouTube, you'll find my Instagram, you'll find my website, you'll find my articles. So if you're out there and you're saying, man, listen, I'm trying to figure out how I can get to 6 or 7 figures because it's a different world we're in. 6 or 7 figures is not the same value as it was 10, 15 years ago. It's almost like you need 6 or 7 figures just to get to a certain space, right? Now, granted, we can talk about budgeting and lifestyles and choices, but with the amount of debt that people have to take on and just trying to live in today's society, people don't have strategy. So all I do is I give strategy. I don't sell dreams. I give you a game plan that is custom to who you are based on the things, because I want you to start working in purpose, but I need you to know your purpose is worth it. So I want to guide you through that. And if you're willing to be one of the next stories, we'd love to add you. And all I ask is the story. I tell people all the time, I don't need nothing from you. I don't need $1 from you. I give all my information away for free. That's nothing. Most people don't know that, but all my stuff is free. I don't charge you for that. So you literally are going to be able to learn this stuff. You can go spend $10,000, $20,000 somewhere else, and you'll come back to the same free concepts I've been given for all these years and recognize that they're just bottling up a whole bunch of stuff. But my support and consistency after I tell you what to do is how we're able to get the results in, because we're going to be with you the whole way. I just ask people for the story. Like when you get there, don't forget me. Don't forget to mention that you're working with this guy so somebody else can come along. So CEO Chris Holder, guys, look for me, find me. Let's connect.
Chris, I appreciate you, man. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do it again soon. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. This has been another fantastic episode of the Montana Method Podcast with your host, Nelson. Until the next time, guys, push it to the limit. The world is yours. And if you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.